Hi everyone, welcome to day 2 of our Coronacation. I'm sure everyone is a little frazzled, a lot going on. So Christy and I thought the best way to do this is to come to you. So I'm Melissa, I own Melissa Simply Sweet, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Home Bakers United. Let's take a little moment to talk about how much we love the new name. Love it. Christy and I decided it was a great idea because this way we're all home bakers and we're kind of coming together, and what better time to talk about coming together to support each other so we can be united. So here's what we decided to do. Every day for the next 14 days of our Coronacation, we'll kind of come to you with a cute little live to kind of go over fun new tutorials, topics, and different things just to kind of get over what's going on and stop watching CNN for about 30 minutes of your day. Okay, so here's what I decided to talk about today. I decided to talk about everyone has that neighbor on their street that kind of lives like next door, and you might wave to them while you're going by, but you don't really talk to them because it's kind of like, I kind of know, but not so much. That is your freezer. Your freezer is your best friend who lives right next door, and you didn't know it was the greatest person in the world. So I know that there's been so many topics that have come on the page today and leading up to today, and I'm always asked so many questions about the freezer. How do we freeze cake? How do we freeze cupcake? Should we freeze cake? Should we freeze cupcakes, cookies? Freeze them raw, freeze them baked. How do we do it? What do we do? So I thought this was a perfect opportunity because I know we've had some topics today that have discussed freezing cakes, how far in advance should you make them, and all of that. Now here's what I'll say, which I say all the time. There's about 400 different ways to do everything. Nobody is right. Nobody is real. Well, you've got some that are wrong, but there really is never just one right way. So here's what I do. I always freeze everything. The freezer is seriously my best friend. And to me, it's the best way to multitask everything. So if you're making cakes or you're making cupcakes and you have orders going out, you can use that freezer to speed up because, as you know me very well by now, I am a procrastinator. So you can use the freezer to speed things up, chill things down, get things to a point where you need them so that you can use them right away. So let's go take a little look at the freezer. Come on. Let's go. All right, so and I know that not everyone has extra freezers, but I happen to have an extra freezer. Well, I have a couple freezers. So in the freezer, currently, I just wanted you to see is I do have cookies that are baked and they are wrapped in plastic for an order. I do have cake for an order that has been canceled, but it is wrapped as well. And these are cookies, and I stack all my cookies. These ones are baked. I just did some samples, but these are the ones I really, here's a cake that I had to carve up, so I saved scraps because I figured maybe my kids would want to make cake pops. So this is kind of my okay, freebie aisle. But this is really what I want to talk about because I want to talk about the cookies first. So, because cookies are like the topic of the century. Come, let's go talk about them. All right, so when I roll out my cookies, I specifically roll them out, and I do not do cookies on a cookie sheet, and then I get another cookie sheet, and I do that one. I stack. I'm a huge stacker. So let me lean this down so you can see. But basically, when I am doing my cookies, I will stack them on parchment, and you see they're just layered one after another. So this is all, these are all chilled, they're frozen. So what I call it is I flash freeze them. So here's what we do. So I will go and I will roll my cookies, I will cut my cookies. And if I'm even gonna bake them today or not, it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't matter if it is my current order, like if I can merge multiple orders, but I will just keep stacking. And when I do like a massive order, like I can stack 20 sheets high. Like I will go all the way up to here, basically until I can't lift it to put in my freezer. So when you can freeze them so nicely raw, just like this. They're not baked, they're just rolled out. And so once I get them nicely chilled and frozen, I transfer them to a freezer Ziploc bag. I do not put parchment in between. I literally just lay them in and stack on top. Here, I'll lean you down so you can see the goodies. But because they've already been essentially flash frozen, kind of like when you have a bag of French fries and you put them in the freezer, you know, when you pull them out of the freezer and you open your bag, they all cascade out because when they were being processed, they were all individually frozen. So they kind of crystallized around each other. The same with here. So because they've all been individually frozen, not touching anything, they will not stick to each other when they get put in the freezer. So I will just lay them all in here. I will zip it up and then I will put it back in the freezer. And then, oh here, come here. And you can go up. So, and then I will put them all in the freezer and then I will even stack. So over the winter, I don't know how many people knew this, but I do a huge order from my local amusement park. It's, okay, wait, first I have to throw this in the freezer or else they're gonna stick back to each other. But I do all of the cookies for the local amusement park. And oh, hello from Alabama. And so each year over the winter, like my first year, they did 17,400 cookies, and they are these really large undecorated cookies. So they buy them undecorated, and then they sell them in Mrs. Claus's kitchen, and everyone, you come in and you get like 4 cookies and you get to decorate them. And so this year they only did, we had like no bad weather, so they only did 11,000 of them, and then they also needed 2,300 hand decorated. So that's a lot of cookies. And so for me to do it successfully, I actually bought one of those freezers in my garage, you know, the ones where you can find like dead bodies in them. You shouldn't do that, but it's like an old movie. You'd be like, oh, the freezer, there's a person in there. That's the one I bought. So I actually was able, and I thought I could stack, oh, hello, Melissa. I thought I could stack like 10,000 cookies in there. And I honestly actually could only stack 5,000 because they were so big. But that's what I did. I stack them all on sheets, I transfer them, and then I pull them out when I'm ready and I fresh bake them off. So in regards to my cookies, that's how I do my cookies. If I'm not going to store them from a long time, which is not really often, I will freeze them just like this on my cookie sheet. If it's gonna be like a week, because I'm really never that ahead, it's bad, but I'm not. But if I do, I like to break them off pretty close to it. So I will take them out, bake them off, and then I decorate them. So in regards to the question, there are times when I bake off my cookies and I need them right then. So I will usually always bake the same day I decorate. Like I do it all on the same day because that's just slightly insane. But anyways, I will take them out of the oven sometimes and go straight to the freezer. It is what it is, and it works fine. Okay, so that's cookies. Let's talk about cake. Cake. I know some of you have seen my little live discussing how I frost everything frozen. I highly, highly recommend decorating cakes frozen, because you do not pull the crumbs off of the cake when you're decorating it. Whereas if your cake was room temperature, you go to ice your cake, you're ripping the little crumbs off, and no one wants little crumbs in your cake. So I will do multiple options. One, I will bake my cake, and if it's the same day, I will legit just put my pan straight in the freezer because I do have the space. I will do that. I'll be honest, I do. And then, but the other thing is that if I am going to let my cake come to room temperature, dump my cake out onto saran wrap, and then wrap it to freeze it, that is totally what you should do. The only thing I will highly, highly recommend is when you are wrapping, let's go get a cake. When you are wrapping, you wanna make sure that you're not pulling or tugging, because you can easily reshape cake like super, super easily. Because remember, it's still room temperature, it's super, super soft, and it happens. It happens super easily. So I will take the cake out, and I always bake my cakes on top of parchment circles, but I will take the parchment circle off when it comes out, and then I will wrap it in saran wrap, if I'm gonna use it within like 2 days. If I'm gonna freeze it for any longer, I will wrap it in saran wrap and then I will wrap it in foil over it. I don't usually do it longer than that. You totally can, because I'm gonna be very honest with you. There's many times, like for example, this cake got canceled. I will not have cake for a while because I just won't. So I have had cake that sat and I gave to my family for months and it's been completely fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying you won't kill anyone. So it's, you know, for people who say all bakeries bake same day or 24 hours before or 40 hours before, I will just say this. Some of the big, huge bakeries in New York that do 40 cakes a weekend, they don't have enough staff or manpower or warehouse space to bake all of their cakes 24 hours before and decorate all their multi-tier cakes 24 hours before. So let's just go with that. Okay, so that's my feeling on it. All right, let's talk about cupcakes. Let me go get them. So cupcakes are a fiddly little devil. Sometimes they behave, sometimes they do not. Sometimes people are like, oh, my wrapper has come off. Like a lady who just showed a little too much cleavage at the beach. Just kind of unwrapped a little bit. So do not worry, Kelly. This is gonna be on. You can watch it later from the beginning. So no worries. All right, so here's a perfect example. These cupcakes have sat in my freezer since January. I always write on it what it is. I won't use them unless my kids want to play with them because, again, I don't have any cupcake orders and it was off of a wedding tasting and I just didn't need the chocolate and forgot it was in there and moved on with everything else. So when I do my cupcakes, oh, and I see my kids must have opened it up because look at how there's frost on it. That's how you know there's little hands that have come into your freezer and touched your little goodies. But anyway, so here's how I freeze my cupcakes. Do not mind the frost on it. What a little talking to with those little children that are now gonna be home until April in my house. But I will take my cupcakes out of the oven. I will let them come completely to room temperature. I mean, 100%. It is probably the only thing that I am so vigilant with because the deal is that if you start covering your cupcakes with saran wrap early, the heat from the cupcake will go inside that wrapper and peel that lady's clothes right off, like right off. And then if you were to push the saran wrap down, see, look at how someone came in here and smushed this. All right, these are the bags. These are actually amazing. They are 2-gallon Ziploc freezer bags, and I buy them from my Restaurant Depot. Highly, highly recommend them because I can get 24 cupcakes in here. It is like the bomb. I love it. I also can put my dough, my cookie dough, 10 times my batch will fit in one of, no, it doesn't. I think I have to use 2 of these. Yeah, I think I have to use 2.5 of these for like 10 times my batch. But they're great. So if you guys have a Restaurant Depot near you, check it out. I mean, I go to Restaurant Depot and I get a ton of that stuff. I also buy my parchment, which is pre-cut, my butter, my eggs. I seem to use multiple stores for everything. But they have like great stuff and I get like all of my food service saran wrap and all this other stuff. Oh, Nicole wants to know if I use simple syrup. Okay, I do not use any simple syrup, but if you're going to use simple syrup, I would recommend using it when you go, I think you have to use it, I would assume you would want to use it while you're decorating your cake. That is what my guess is gonna be, but I'm gonna investigate that for you because I'm not 100%. I don't simple syrup anything. My cakes just have never needed it. I did it in culinary school and I think that was like the last time, but I'd be really pulling back on like some memories to try to remember that. So I will find out and I'll ask around and you know what, we can throw that in our group tonight just to kind of ask around, see who's got some definite simple syrup opinions on it. Okay, so I will take my cupcakes, will come out of the oven. I will leave them to cool-ish for a few, 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the pan. Really 10 minutes until I can just kind of move them. And then I put them out and put them on a cookie sheet. And I will let them sit until they are very room temperature. When I don't have the bags, or if I know I'm gonna kind of use them today, pretty much, or tomorrow morning, real quickly, I will just cover them in saran wrap and put them in my freezer. I will still decorate these frozen. If I run out of freezer room, I will put them in the fridge and decorate them chilled. It's not the same as cake because I'm not sitting and, scraping around the way you're scraping the cake. So you can also decorate them room temperature. It really doesn't make a difference for a cupcake. It's just kind of the way it is. But the one thing you want to make sure is not to put them in, not to cover them or put them in a container or anything until you are very positive that they are cool. And that's why none of the wrappers have come up. So I like I just like the simple brown, non-shiny wrapper. I'm kind of boring like that. I don't know. I just go like that. The only time I'll use a white wrapper is if I do gluten-free and I'm giving at an event and they wanted some gluten-free and some brown, I'll change the wrapper so then they know, oh, this wrapper means this flavor or this dietary need. Okay, so that is cupcakes. So you got your cupcakes, you got your cookies, you got your cakes. What else do you do in the freezer? Okay, so the freezer, you can just remember, like you're making your Swiss meringue buttercream, you make too much of it, you can freeze it. Your cream cheese icing, any icing, you can freeze it. So so Lindsay wants to know, what about freezing a decorated cupcake? I had an order canceled last minute and I hate to get rid of it. You can freeze it. I have frozen cakes. I do not freeze cakes with fondant. I will freeze them with buttercream and I will freeze cupcakes with buttercream. And here's what I will do. So I will put them in the box, like the bakery box, if I have it. Well, and I put them in the way that they were gonna be delivered. And this is the way I would do it for the amusement park because I would give them orders ahead of time. But I seal my boxes with packing tape, so it really is sealed. And then I have even gone so far, if I was kind of concerned, and I've wrapped that in saran wrap. So this way, you're protecting your decoration on your cupcake, but you're giving all of your air protection out of it around the box, if that makes sense, instead of touching your cupcake. But you can absolutely freeze it. You can also freeze your cookies that are decorated. So let's talk about that. So you go and you decorate the cookie. You can freeze your cookies that are raw and just cut like this. You can freeze your cookies that are baked and undecorated, but then you can also freeze your decorated cookies. So if you're just gonna freeze them and keep them out, so here's how I will do it. I have actually frozen like just flooded cookies. Like I had too many and I flooded them and I knew I wanted to save them and make them as like samples. So what I did was I froze them on the cookie sheet individually, not touching. And when everything was frozen, I just put the straight flooded cookies into the Ziploc bag. No problem. And then I let them freeze. And then when I was ready to do use them as samples or decorate on top of them, I pulled them out of the freezer and I immediately placed them individually on the cookie sheet so they could come back up. And you will watch the icing, the royal icing will get real wet. And as it comes to room temperature, and then it'll all evaporate out and it'll dry right back up. Now, if you're going to fully decorate your cookie and individually package your cookie, you can still freeze it. You want to freeze it and let's say you have them in the boxes and they're all frozen. You want to make sure they're 100% dry and ready to go. But you can totally freeze them. And then I always say, take them out of the freezer and don't touch them. Just let them, don't take them out of the box. Don't even look at them. Like someone who came down without makeup on in the morning, I don't want to see you. I haven't had coffee yet. Do not even touch them. Do not look at the cookies at all. They will come back to room temperature. And when they're room temperature, you could take them out of the box, but they're totally fine. Okay, Nicole wants to know, how long can you freeze cookies, cakes, and cupcakes? This is all a preference situation. Cookies, like drop cookies, I freeze those all the time. And those I freeze the exact same way. I just freeze them in the Ziploc bags. And if they're a huge amount covered. So, I mean, everything, you can freeze it 3-6 months. I mean, it really, none's gonna happen to it. I don't sell, if I would do that for my family, because I do like to kind of have it fresh, but nothing's gonna happen. So I would literally use my freezer for 30 days, and I don't usually go over 30 days for what I'm selling in my freezer. Could I? 100%, especially your cookies, 100%. Like, you really could, but I don't, because it's just, I never have the need to. I always have the orders, and I'm baked to order. So it's not like I sit down and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to make, 20 vanilla cakes and put in my freezer and wait for someone to buy. I never did business like that. I kind of sat back and said, okay, this week I've got a 6-inch Oreo, an 8-inch vanilla, a 10-inch lemon blueberry. I got a 2-tiered, mixed berry. They're all vanilla based. So I'll sit down and I'll say, okay, how many of everything do I need? I will bake it all off and put it in, and then I can decorate it out. The only times I usually have cake in my freezer is this. If I had to bake for a wedding tasting, and how much, you're gonna have overage. It just is what it is. Or if someone cancels. Other than that, I don't have unclaimed cake sitting there waiting. Same thing with cupcakes and cookies. I don't either. Yeah, I definitely don't. It just is what it is. So, but you know what? I feel like so many people are afraid to freeze, and they're afraid to use it in their daily life. And I feel like it is just such a vital ingredient in your kitchen. It's almost as important as your mixer, because it slows everyone down. Like, if you were not gonna freeze, like if I had an order for a cake and cupcakes, and let's say even like chocolate chip cookies, and I want to do it all in one day, or I want to do it all in 2 days. Well, if I'm going to bake my cake, like, it's all a process of which comes first. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bake my cake. And while my cake is baking, I'm going to make my icing. So while my icing's mixing, my cake will come out of the oven, and it will, come to room temperature. And then my icing will be done, it'll be wrapped and put aside, cake will go to chill. So now the cake, everybody's done. But if I didn't have that ability, first of all, it's really hard to decorate a cake if it's not frozen. But then I have to go make my cupcakes. Now, the only time I wouldn't be making my cupcakes at the same time my cake is if it was totally different flavors. But usually I try to get all my baking done at once if it's that long term. If I'm making drop cookies or decorated cookies I'll always do first, because they always have like this wait time. It's not as nice as like a cake where you could just easily do it and be done. It's always got the wait time. So it is, they're a little bit longer that way. So Nicole, honestly, a couple months and you're totally fine. It's pretty easy. It's not hard. It's pretty good. So Natalie wants to know, for freezing drop cookies, we would do the same as you do for the cutout. I don't do that for the drop cookies. I've never had a problem of my drop cookies sticking. It doesn't matter what they are. So I just let them all cool. And once they're room temperature, I will stack them in the Ziploc bags. The only thing, if I'm doing the decorated cookies, like the cut sugar cookies, the only time I flash freeze them like that is if they're unbaked. Now, if you're gonna do drop cookies unbaked, yes, you would do it exactly the same way, by laying your cookies out, freezing the dough individually, and then you can put them in. So like, one really good idea, because of everything going on right now, is people are selling cookie kits. But another great idea I thought of is you can sell, bake your own cookies at home. So if you have a great chocolate chip cookie recipe, chocolate crinkle, snickerdoodle, all of these things, make the dough, roll them in a ball, and stack them all on your cookie sheet, freeze them, and then when you pull them out, you can individually package them, sell them to your customer, 2 dozen, make your own cookies for $10. They can make their cookies themselves at their own time, any type of germ, bakes off at 375, so you don't have to worry about that. And then they get a little bit of freshness and a little bit of fun in the middle of this Corona nonsense. So that's a great idea also. Do that. And that's easy. You're not using your ovens. All you're doing is mixing and setting it right out the door. So you could like amp up your production. And because you can make big batches, you can have this frozen off, and you can, the frozen, you can keep that 6 months easily, if not closer to a year. I mean, it's not baked. So you can have that in your freezer. Anytime you're doing anything as time goes on, you might get orders for chocolate chip cookies in the next couple of months. You've already got your dough. Pull them out, pop them in the oven, freshly baked, and you're done. You could even give them off when you get some orders as thank you gifts. You know, when the fire department starts accepting stuff, you can drop them off there. Advertising, you know, you can everywhere, you know, it can become like your thank you dough or your thank you cookies, you know, but they're already ready for you. So my favorite part is when you get to do the cookie and you don't bake it off immediately, and in that way you can just think about it. You know, you can go further with it, and it can just take you where you're like, what should I do? I don't have anything in my freezer, or I'm running scared. Like, if I have a ton of orders coming up of a couple hundred cookies, I will take the day and I'll be like, okay, today I'm gonna cut all my cookies out and put them all in the freezer. This way I know everybody's cut, everybody's rolled, enough dough has been made, it's all in the freezer, and then I can start baking off at times when I'm ready to decorate. Danisha says, how would you package the dough for you to sell? Okay, so I've been thinking about this. You could do like quart-size Ziploc bags. I don't think that's very cute. But at the same time that I thought about, I want them to have the ability to be able to freeze it themselves. So I do have like those plastic clamshell containers, if you see. So I thought, okay, you know what if I just wrap the clamshell with like just a piece of parchment and put all my balls in there, and they're frozen. And I would like do a row of balls, and then I do a piece of parchment, another row, because remember, they're going to kind of warm up once they pick them up from you before they get them back to their fridge or freezer. It doesn't have to stay in their freezer, it can stay in their fridge. So I thought about that. I thought about, the only other thing I could think is the plastic, because you really need them in plastic. Like, you don't want to put them in a nice pretty box because you want them to be able to use them. So that's as far as I thought of. So I think one of those plastic clamshells or a Ziploc, but at the same time, you know, if we're all kind of locked in this time and you can't get supplies, do a Ziploc and take the Ziploc and put it into a cute box, but it's already in there, and then you can just write on it like bake 375 for 8 to 10 minutes and you're done. And I think people would love that idea, especially because a lot of people don't know how to make cookie dough. This is another time where you could do, you know the cookie mix in a jar? You can put all your mixed ingredients in, give them instructions how to do it. You know, that's another thing that they could do. But this one I thought was great because they do it. Maybe those Betty Crocker containers from the Dollar Tree will work. I have no idea, I haven't seen those, but definitely if you find some great idea to put it in, post it in the group so we can see, because, you know, we got to support each other. And sometimes, you know, you find something, anyone finds something, it's how we all learn and how we all get better ideas and stuff like that. But if you guys decide to do any of this stuff, cookie kits or any of it, post it and share it, because, you know, it always helps everyone be like, oh, you know what, maybe that would work in my area, or that is a great idea. I'm starting to think about, oh, so Rusty says, would the aluminum pans with cardboard lids work? Absolutely. You could totally do that. I mean, you could, yeah. And you know those aluminum ones that has the plastic lid on it, you could do that too. So you kind of do anything. You could even do different flavors, and you can package it. It'd be really cute. Like, let's say you did chocolate crinkles, like, or you did snickerdoodles. Snickerdoodles would be cute. So if you did snickerdoodles, and you could even package cinnamon and sugar on the side so that the kids could roll them in them. That's even more like fun and interactive, so it makes them feel like they're baking a little bit, but not too much to scare them. And you know, something fun for them to do. But again, they can put it in their freezer, and then now they have it, you know, for this whole time, and they can pull it out. They want 3 cookies at a time. You don't need to bake them all. You can bake as many as you want. And so then you always have fresh cookies whenever you want them. I was trying to think about how to do it with muffins, but I haven't figured that one out yet because I just don't think I can do it with a muffin. So, but I felt like muffins would be great. I think maybe muffins would be great and people would love that because you know, it just makes you feel like you went to a coffee shop in the morning. I don't know. You've got your tray cakes idea. The tray cakes are huge right now. Everyone loves them. They're easy peasy. I highly recommend them. I have not done one, but I can still recommend one. But yeah, definitely do the tray cakes. And I think people are gonna start after a certain point to, yes, layer it with parchment paper to help it freeze, absolutely. But I definitely think people are gonna start to look for something like a quick little easy birthday cake or something just to make their day feel a little bit more special. I always felt like baking and sweets always makes somebody's day a little bit more special. And so that's why I absolutely love it. And hopefully everyone else does. Oh, Melissa, you are the cutest. I had so much fun with you. I think these are great. I think this is just something to lighten our day. I'm excited for Christy. We'll come on tomorrow with another little surprise thing. Oh, Lindsay says there are amazing 6-week muffins. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Lindsay, post that so we can know. But anyways, I had a great time with everyone. Love you as always, and excited to see you. So Christy's tomorrow, and then I am the next day, and I think we'll do something really, really fun. I'm very excited, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your night and find more smiles in your day tomorrow, and I will see you again. Good night.